So feel free to talk about anything that has been bothering you, small or big. And I would be doing these online meetings with you all regularly for some time. If you wish to attend these meetings live on Zoom, save the details. If you need reminders, we also send invitations to you personally on email and Telegram app. To get reminders, do the following. Okay, so we do have Pavni now.
Hi, then let me ask the question that I've already asked you about yesterday's difference of opinions.
Yeah.
Where, like when you set up the rules in the house, can I say my house, my rules when it gets really extreme? Because tomorrow when he has his own house, I would like to respect those rules as well of his house. Yeah.
Okay. So, and what was the other opinion? So you were saying my house, my rules. What was the other opinion?
If we say my house, then I think the child will always feel that it is not his house, that could happen, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's a good question. My house, my rules versus our house, our rules, or whatever. Like those are the, and you're saying that usually in extreme things. So I'll give the context. I'll actually lay out the question, and then I want somebody else to answer it. Let's see what are the opinions. So the question here is that when in your parenting, when you're talking to your children, sometimes you have to discipline them, right, with some rules, and you have to put in some rules, and they sometimes resist also, obviously. So do you tell them that, okay, my house, my rules, because it's an extreme situation, or is it a bad thing to say because it may make them feel that it's not our house? So let's hear some opinions. And Rishabh, now I give you to moderate this, and I'm going to come back with the answer after writing my points. Okay.
So yeah, should we go ahead with my home, my rule, or our house, our rules, and how should we? So who would like to answer for, I'm unmuting you. Yeah, do you have the answer?
Yeah, Rishabh. Hi.
Hi.
It should be our home, our rules. Like I have listened these things from my husband that this is my house, this is my rules. So sometimes we feel like कि नहीं घर में हम लोग भी रहते हैं, सबसे ज्यादा टाइम हम लोग स्पेंड करते हैं घर में. So it should be like our home and everyone rules.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everyone gets to rule. Okay.
Yeah, everyone should get chance. And if someone is wrong with that rule, we can try to explain them that is not the point that we should do in that way. Or you are wrong somewhere.
So you're saying everybody participates and they give better explanations to the rules, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anyone else? Okay. Vijay.
I get this most of the time from my kids, same situation. So especially when it happens, generally it happens when I enter into their room sometimes, when they are playing or when I ask them to do some homework or something, it's the different expectation. They want to play and I just enter into the room and they say, it's my room. Why did you enter? And then the conflict starts. They are being rude to me. Then I say, it's my house.
Okay.
So I do that. And again, we had that a little bit of an argument sometimes with my kids. And then we come back to the reason I responded rude is because you being rude to me. Yeah, that's what I say, that you being rude to me, that you cannot enter into my room. Then I said that it's my house as well. So you get, I don't say you get out, but I say that, that's the way I respond. But again, I try to explain to them that, you being rude, I being rude. But if you want me to knock the door, I'll knock the door, but you can ask me politely. I can learn from you. That's what I said, that we conclude. And this is a repetitive thing. This is not a one-time thing for me. It happens many, many times, many, many weeks. But yeah, it's getting better.
Better. So you say you understand the expectations that are coming from the kids, and then you respond to those. Okay.
Yeah. Actually, it's nothing to do about home or room. It's about being rude or being set the expectation. That's what I understood.
Okay.
But it takes time and effort, and they're still 10-year-olds, 7-year-olds. So it's not that big argument for me. So, I can always win, I think, sometimes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Vijay. Thank you. Yeah, Madhu, please tell us, what do you have an answer for Pavni's question?
Yeah, hi. So I have a teenager, and this kind of conversations you can imagine happen every other day on every other issue. So my house, my rules I use, but as a last resort. I use it as a last resort because she's old enough to understand whatever is happening, what her demands are, and why I'm telling no and all that. I try to explain. We have this back and forth conversation, discussion, argument, everything. And finally, if I'm not able to convince her, or if it doesn't work out, then I resort to saying, "This is my house. This is how it is. You will have to agree." That is how it is.
So you use other tactics and then keep this as your last resort.
Yes.
Okay. So anybody else who would like to answer something different from what we have heard, and Pavni can get benefited?
Or okay, it's okay now. I think I've written a few points, so I'm back. And actually, while I was listening to the points, I also gave me an idea how to actually include those things. So the question is actually really good, and in fact, how it was confirmed by, like, I don't know who was talking, but they said that also happens in their own house also, right? Because this does happen, where ultimately, because when Pavni asked the question, she laid that assumption that we're talking about the extremes. We're not talking about the day-to-day life, right? Where she's constantly going to her child and saying, my house, my rule. It's like only the situations when it's the extreme part. So I'm going to answer the question keeping that in mind, that the situation is a bit extreme, and then how do you respond? So first is, one problem with the my house, my rules is actually in fact, my house part is the bigger problem. And somebody said it right, because that's technically wrong. In the sense that it is technically their house too. Because if you think about this, because it's our duty to provide them shelter, they have just as much a right on the house as you do. So in that sense, it's usually better to say things which are technically right, because the children do have a right on your resources as they are growing up, especially when children who are very young. So we can avoid the my house part. But now let's come to the my rules part. Okay, now this one is trickier, because here, so that was the first point. Now, second point is about the my rules part, which is sometimes when you want immediate compliance. So for immediate compliance, you don't have the time to explain all the rules. And you just tell them, you just remind them, this is the rule and you have to do it. And that's fine. In some cases, you have to do it. So in the cases, for example, if you have to, let's say, sit the children in the car and you have to go somewhere, and you know that wearing seatbelt is important, right? So, and you don't really have the time to explain it to them, but you say, you know what, of course they know that it's rules from the society, but still ultimately you're the one who's executing it. So, okay, this is the rule, you have to do this. Or it could be any other example. So you sometimes push it because there are no other choices, because you have to have immediate compliance. So in extreme cases, when you have to push for something, you say, this is the rule, follow it. I don't have the time to explain, and that's fine. But now we come to the third point. Third is, the culture of the house must be not that. The culture must be of reasons and explanations, which is the child must know that even though in this moment, mom and dad did not explain it to me, but I will have the recourse. Like later on, when the situation is calmer, I can go back to my mom and dad and ask them, why is the rule there? Why did you make me do those things? They should have that trust in them that I will get a good answer for that, right? And that happens when you build that culture, that every time you lay out a rule, right, you give them explanation. So once the culture is built, once they know that mom and dad are not going to run away from the reasoning part, then sometimes the second point can be valid, which is, okay, you know what, it's my rule, you have to do it. But if the culture is not there, and that's your go-to strategy, which is my rules, my rules, my rules, then of course it gets super problematic. Okay. Next point is that rules are actually above us, right? Rules have to be above us. And that's why a small problem with my rules is it makes it about you. So that's why, and whenever you want to convince somebody or influence somebody for the long run, and it's always better to give them a larger dream, a larger picture, a larger vision, instead of making it about yourself, because it can backfire very, very quickly. So the children, as they grow up, they very quickly say, why your rules? Who are you? Right? They don't put you on a pedestal. They quickly will question you. So the my word should be removed from that part. We can better say the neutral rules, the better rules, the wiser rules, the family rules, right? And those rules must be above you. So they must come from some neutral principles of life, which is, let's say, again, if we sleep on time, then the family stays healthy. So now this is not my rule. This is a rule for the health part. It's a health rule, right? So, and you should be able to, in the reasoning part, be explained that, you know what, if we follow this, these are the benefits. In future, you'll have a routine, you'll wake up with more energy, you'll have, if you're better rested, you'll be able to concentrate better, so many other functions. So in that sense, it's not, even if you remove yourself, the rule shouldn't make sense, right? That is the thing. If I completely remove you from the situation, the rule should still make sense. And that's why we can remove the word my, and we can go on to, you know what, these are the health rules, these are family rules, these are study rules, and all of those things, which are universally defendable. You can defend them through good reasons. And the final point is that sometimes the my part can be useful whenever there is a final disagreement. So what I mean by that is, if you enter into a discussion with them, okay, these are the reasons. So you say, okay, sleeping on time is important for such and such reasons. And the kid says, you know what, I understand those reasons, but I disagree with them. My friends also sleep that way. They are also fine, right? They may say that I've seen on TV that everybody sleeps like that. Sometimes even my grandfather or my uncle sleeps like that late. It's fine. And he may say that, okay, you know what? Yes, your reasons are right, but 1 hour delay is not that big of a delay. So he can give they can give all kinds of arguments, and they will, right? And they do as they grow up. So in those cases, sometimes you have to instill, okay, you know what, I've had a long discussion, I've given you all my reasons, I've heard all your reasons. Now we cannot keep this conversation going endlessly, and only one thing can happen, which is either you'll sleep at 10 or you'll sleep at 11, right? So so now we're talking about reasons and their conclusion. So whose conclusion will prevail? Whose final decision? Who will make the final decision? And that's where sometimes the my part comes in, which is, even though I could be wrong about things at times, even though my judgment could be problematic, but after I've given you a due chance of discussion, participation, I will be making the final decision because somebody has to. And in this case, I simply cannot give you the final decision for certain things, especially the things which are important, right? And you can go on to say, it's a very important line, my decisions will not be perfect, but that is the only path. So the culture is, I listen to you, I consider your argument, and you should genuinely consider their arguments, but the final decision has to be mine. And that's where you say the authority actually comes in, and you say, this is my final decision, and now this is the family rule. Okay, so because you may have felt things like, you know what, you're discussing things endlessly again and again and again and again, because you have repeated yourself 5 times, now they've repeated themselves 5 times. What is the conclusion? So that's where you can use that card to, okay, now that the discussion has happened, it is the final thing. So these were some of my points on this. And yeah, it was actually a very good question, because it's a very common problem in parenting. So yeah, thanks Pavni for asking that. Yeah, and I hope that answers that well, Pavni. Now let's go to, there is another hand raised there, Ekta. I'm gonna unmute Ekta now.
Yeah, hi Sridhar, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Tell me.
Sridhar, during this COVID time, and since we are locked up in the house, all of us together, so especially the kids, they are like, their physical activity is minimum, and they are glued to the screens most of the time. And so how to minimize that time, because how much their activities are reduced so to a very minimal extent. They are not going out, we don't allow them, and they are glued to these mobiles and tablets and other screens all the time. So what can be done in this time? And after watching, even after, they are never like, they are content with the amount of time we give them. They are always irritated, they are always asking for more. So how to deal with that?
Well, one of the toughest questions, but so let's see what everybody else has to say. So I'll again go off, and I'll give the floor to Rishabh.
So yeah, Screen time. How do we reduce screen time in this lockdown phase or even every day, right?
Yes.
When kids are not content. Okay. So who has the answer for Ekta here? Anybody who has tried something, it has worked for them? So Mrinmay.
Hi, Rishabh.
Hi.
Yeah, my kids are really small. They're 3 and 5, and so up till now, what has worked for me is keeping firm rules and letting them know, like mutually, you can sit and talk to them as to how much they think is they want to see and how much is what you can let them watch. So somewhere you can just find the line in between, and it should like be mutually that okay, this is what we are agreeing upon.
Okay.
And if it is say 1 hour, after 1 hour you don't need to be rude, you just need to be firm about your rule. You can just go and put off the TV and keep it. But I'm really not sure for the age, because my kids are really small, like I said, it's working for me. I don't know if this really works for kids who are elder ones, and because they know everything, then they'll know where the remote is, they know everything. So then I don't know if this works, but this works for me.
Okay. Ekta, what's the age of your kids?
My daughter is 8 years old and son is 3 years old.
8 and 3.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Mrinmay, you're saying that you try to mutually set the deadlines with them.
Yes.
And that works with you because kids are young at the moment, right?
Yes.
Okay.
When it becomes a little authoritative, this is what I'm saying and you have to listen to this, then there is a problem with listening to that. But when it is mutually decided, I think kids would.
So you're saying the chances of agreement are higher when you're mutual.
Higher, yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, relatively.
Yes.
High. Okay. Right. So, Pavni, you have an answer?
Yes. So like my kid is also small. So during the lockdown, we had to be home when it was really difficult here. So what we did was we used to take some nice color papers. I think kids love structure and a routine. So we took some nice color papers and we used to say, now we play in the balcony from so and so time to so and so time. Yeah. So we used to put times, and this time, like this is fruit time. This is where we drink water. We have breakfast time. We have lunch time. Along with that, some activities. We finish watering the plants, or we wash some of the plastic toys. We clean them, so they like it. Like when they see that, and when they do it by themselves, like Mrinmay said, like we do it together and we stick it on the fridge. They know what to expect at that time. And that keeps a very nice structure. And also that recently I have got these cards made, like jump or spin and dance. So if you make such cards and show them how it is done, they also will like such activities. Like now we jump for 10 times. Like it's also like they learn how to count and they also do that. So it's they feel very accomplished and very satisfied with such activities. Which are more exciting than the TV, where you just have to sit. But here they can do a lot more of movement with which the young kids actually enjoy. So yeah, that's how I try to solve this. Yeah, I hope it's helpful.
Thank you, Pavni. Yeah, Lakshmi, can you?
Yeah. So we handle the same situation in a different way. So when my daughter was younger, so the same problem, she'll get hooked onto the TV and she doesn't want to come out of it. So all those kind of things. So before I let her watch, I tell her this is going to be for this many minutes. And what I do is I give her a warning, like say, for example, if it is a 30 minutes, I tell her at the 25th minute, I tell her saying, you have 5 more minutes and after that you may need to. So she mostly, comply, but at times when she's so engrossed, what happens is she will say like, she won't turn it off. So that time I will step in and I will just tell her the 30 minute is over, and then I take the remote and turn it off. But I do tell her and then I do that. So sometimes, for this, she has created a tantrum. And so what I did is, so that time I told her, you can communicate. If you have, another just 2 minutes extra, then I am lenient on that, saying like, okay, another 2 minutes you can watch, and then she will turn it off. Even yesterday, she is now 14 years old, and yesterday she wanted to watch, and I told her you can watch it for 30 minutes, and then she was watching a thing. She told me like she still has another 20 minutes to watch. I told her you can watch it by tomorrow, and then she said okay, and she turned it off by herself. So it was 8:14 in the night. She turned it off. But with mobile, what we have done is we have put the restriction, screen time restrictions in the mobile. So after that, she cannot use anything. So this is at the teenage that we have done. So when she was younger, so we do pitch in and we tell her.
Is there any application that you can tell us? Tell the parents.
Actually, my husband did that. Can I check with him and then can I text it to you?
Yeah, you can type it on the chat so that we all.
Yeah, right now it is 5:30. He's sleeping. He's still not down. So what I'll do is I'll definitely ask about the application. So we don't even have to meddle in that. Like by 9 o'clock in the night, everything will be shut off completely. She cannot access anything, and if she needs to access, she will send a request from her phone. Can I have extra 5 minutes? Can I use that?
Okay.
So we make a decision to say yes, you can watch it, or no.
There's one thing that I already know. One of my US clients was using was My Circle. I don't know if Indians can use it or not, but My Circle. This was one of the apps.
There are actually a lot of things people are using, but my husband felt, this is I think a few of my friends, they are using something called like one more app. I don't remember, but I remember them saying like, even when your child texts to something else, somebody else, if it is really some certain words like something kill or whatever it is, or any sexual related thing, all those things will pop up on your phone. So immediately you can go and track just that conversation alone, because they'll be texting a lot. You will not be able to keep a track of it, but certain words alone, like it will pop up on your screen saying your child has used this, and then immediately you can go see the conversation, and then you can take a call. This is okay. Something we can leave it, or we can take a call.
Right.
So yeah, that's my thing.
Thank you, Lakshmi.
Yeah.
Next is Pankaj.
Okay, and I don't have that big son or daughter. I have just 10-month-old daughter, but I can say like if your kid is watching TV, then you need to find something more interesting. Why they are watching TV? Because they find the TV is more entertaining or interesting. So one area I can recommend is like the board games. Like they are like many a time the parents cannot join with the kid to play because of more physical activity may be required, because they keep on jumping and all. But there are the board games area, depending upon the age group, there are different type of games available, and playing time starts maybe from 10 minutes to 30 minutes to 1 hour to 2 hours. So, and very engaging and strategy wise, and different levels also there.
Okay.
So this area, like parents can also engage with the kid, and it will be fun. Yes.
Right. Great. Thank you, Pankaj.
All right.
Thank you.
Those are some good answers, actually. Some practical application too, and even this one. So I have 3 important points here. But first in fact, that is also actually the first point is about the background is about what are the times that we are living in. So if you think about this, these are in a way very special or in a way unspecial times, which is our lifestyles and the things we are supposed to do. Normal rules are simply not applying these days, right? So this is why one thing that all parents must do is make peace with the fact that some increase in that digital activity is going to happen. And it's not just because of the COVID pandemic times, it's also because the world is also digitizing at a great speed. So more and more new activities are coming online. So this is why making peace with this reality that the world is shifting more and more towards screen. You will have to, because this is now a reality and there is no turning back, there is no going back. It's probably only going to be increased, right? So this is why if you're just counting hours, that would be a wrong way to look at the child's life or the screen time, because now what happens in those hours is way more important than the number of hours. Because a few years back we could have said, more than 3 years you don't have to, because we knew that mostly on screens it was only entertainment, but not so much anymore. Any activity that you can think of, knowledge gaining, socializing, entertainment, music, and sometimes even logistical things, booking an app, whatever you can think of, almost everything is happening on the screens. So unless you have a very good breakdown of where the time went, you should not simply be controlling it. So that's one. Now the next is, TV will always be more interesting. That's another thing that you have to make peace with the fact. TV and in Netflix. So the idea there is that replacing it is, that's why becoming more and more difficult, because whatever you replace it with probably will not be as interesting. And even the suggestion, the board games, it's a good one, but it's a difficult one, because if you think about this, unless there are people around you, unless there are parents actually actively engaged with the child, most of the things won't work, because simply turning on the TV and looking at the screen is simply way more interesting. So you have to understand the need structure also, that the children really, once they get used to that kind of entertainment, and that happens to us also, by the way. If you think about this, so many times I feel that I am guilty of actually preferring Netflix over actually talking to a friend, because I know, okay, talking to a friend is important, but then watching that series would be way more interesting, because I've seen that last episode and I'm interested to know what happens in the next, or something new has come in. So it happens to us too, because professionals are making those things, and they are making it so much more interesting that it's just way better than anything in our day-to-day lives. So we can't really fault children for wanting it more and more. Okay, so we have to again accept this reality too, that they're simply doing their job really well. People who are putting content on those screens, it could be anything, okay, whether it's a video game or it could be just a movie. Okay, the third point is your argument for reducing screen time is actually not that strong. So most parents go to the argument of aankhein kharab ho jayegi, your eyes will suffer, or they give different kinds ki sometimes it's about posture, sometimes it's about what are you doing with your life, so it's more like you're taking something away, but taking something away which is so interesting for them, but the reasons are not good enough, because when they see around themselves everybody else is doing the same thing, they're like, what are you talking about, mom and dad? What world are you living in? Right? So just taking it away with those arguments probably won't work. And that's why you usually have to do this other thing, which is my next point. So focus more on the do part instead of the don't part. What I mean by that is, think about what are the things that you want your child to actually do, right? What are the top 3, 4, 5 activities? The list should not be too long. And see, living this life is not that complicated. In parents' mind, sometimes if you go into the perfectionist mode that you want a super child, then it can become very complicated. Then you can have an endless list of things that a child must do. But if you sit back a little bit and if you relax a little bit, your child does not need to do everything. If they just manage the major areas of their lives, which is decent health, just getting through the education system, just a little bit of social integration. Their routine is basically like, again, not too odd. So the life is going to be fine. So your focus should be to focus on the do part and talk about the do part. You need to do these 3 to 4 things, and this is the reason for that, and you push for that. So, and for that, the child will also understand. So if you're really pushing for, let's say, eating good food, or you're really pushing for making friendships, so you have to give an argument for that. So now the child has something to aspire to, because you have laid out the argument so well. Let's say if there is a hobby, and if you can lay out the argument that what are the benefits of having a hobby and what you can do with those things, how it's related to their happiness, their well-being, now they have something to aspire to. So if you really want them to shift that, give them new things to aspire to, or new rules, or new activities, or even essentials of life and good reasons for them. And that's when that happens, you actually don't have to cut down on it, talk too much about that. You can focus on those discussions. Okay, what did we discuss? We discussed 2 hours of physical activity. Now, automatically for those 2 hours, let's say that 2 hours includes going and coming back and cooling down and warming up, all in all, those 1.5 or 2 hours. So if you have really made the argument for those 2 hours, then automatically for those 2 hours, they cannot watch anything else, because now this new thing has taken roots in their philosophy, in their values. The same for, let's say, family time. If you really give them a good argument and good explanation for family time and really push for it, naturally they'll understand, okay, this is important, and now in that time they cannot do it. So focus more on things that they can find interesting or aspire to, or just find value for. Okay, and ultimately life is about that. If you can manage probably the top big 5 major elements of your life, you're going to live a good life, and the same for your child. So there's no need for micromanagement. Okay, so that's the focus on what really needs to be done instead of what's not. And the final point is that your goal should, when you're managing screen time, or usually this is with anything else also, your goal should not be full compliance. Your goal should be that, am I moving the needle a little bit or not? And if you're moving the needle a little bit in the right direction, you're successful as a parent, right? Because ultimately you cannot take them to the milestones that you have in your mind. You can just give them the direction and nudge them a little bit. And if you've done a little bit, then you've given them the right path and a good enough push. So I'm saying this because so many parents, they cannot rest and they cannot allow themselves to be happy until the rule is fully executed till the end. Like even if a little bit. So let's say they say that right now a child is currently watching 5 hours a day, right? And they make a rule of 3 hours. So if the child comes from 5 to 4, the parents are not happy. If the child comes from 5 to 3:30, they are still not happy. They're like, okay, we discussed 3, and they're going to be just as angry as they would be at 5 as they would be at 3:30. So now that's the mistake. If you have moved the needle from 5 to 3:30, you should allow yourself to be a little happy inside. Okay, you've done something. Not wait until 3 happens and not keep fighting until 3 happens. So your intensity of emotion, your fight, your struggle, and your misery inside, that should reduce as the needle moves. Okay, and that's what changes a lot. So I think there was some mistake there. I'll just repeat the last line, which was, so basically, as long as you're doing a little bit, and as long as you're giving them the direction, you're doing something good and valuable. Okay, and so you don't have to run after the full compliance part. Okay, and this is especially true in this screen time. So think of yourself as a good force in their life, not the final executioner of things. Okay, that you're being a good force. You're reminding them of the good things, and that's more than enough. Ultimately, they are independent beings, and they will develop their own habits in the long run. And it's really out of your hands. Okay, so that would be my full answer to that question. Hope you found something valuable there.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah. All right. So let's have another question. So I think Madhu has raised her hand. I'm going to unmute Madhu.
So my question is, I have a teenage daughter and she loves dogs. She's a single child. And we have been having this conversation from so many years, whether we should get a dog at home or not. First of all, my husband doesn't like it. And second of all, we both are working people, like we have hectic schedules kind of thing. So she is in 9th standard now. And even if we get a dog, taking it for walks and whatever is involved, we will not be able to do it properly, and she will not be able to give her time because of her studies and tuitions and everything. So we have been at it from quite some time now. So every time she sees a dog on Insta or video or wherever, she makes that face and makes me feel guilty. I mean, I have no issues getting a dog, but the actual managing part, practicality, I know that it is not going to be easy and it's not going to be, So can you help me with some argument that I can do, make her understand that it is not for us, at least for now, for a few years. we'll see. So in those times, I tell her that later when you're older, you have your own house or you move somewhere, you can have a dog and all that. But that doesn't seem to be working. So if you can help me with this issue, it will be, I'll be grateful.
Sorry, what's the age again?
14.
She's 14. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna leave it to Rishabh now and come back soon.
So we have many answers. Ratna ji?
I would suggest if you can make her look after a pet from your neighborhood, like your family friend or circle or relatives or somebody for a few days. Like you can make it clear in the first, as a thing that, and then she will, when she will actually deal with the pet, and she will know the practicality and everything by herself, instead of we kind of imposing and saying no to whatever her ambitions or her interest with the pet would be. Or you can adopt a pet for so many days, and I think there are institutions which allow us to do that before we totally adopt a pet. So you can do that so that your daughter would probably understand how tough is it to look after somebody when she's still a kid. So that would be my answer. Thank you.
Okay, that's good. Okay, unmuting Pavni here. So you have an answer for?
Yeah, I would like to say that my husband was not a dog person before, and when we decided together, so we went in this hierarchy. First, we will get a plant and make sure it lives for some time. Even that, you should start with small responsibilities, because if you think dog is like a toy, it's not at all a toy. It's a huge responsibility. You need to make sure it eats well, it's pooping well, it's walking enough, it is trained well. Without those things, it can cause a lot of havoc to your family and to your neighbors, and people can complain. So we started with the plant, and
and some harm to themselves as well if they're not trained.
Yeah. And so first, I think for small kids or young adults, they should start with a plant. If they can take care of a plant, then move to getting a fish. Fish is also you have to feed it certain times of the day, clean the tank once a week. It is a little responsibility compared to a dog. And then when you want to go to the next level of a dog, you need to educate yourself about the breeds of the dogs. Not all breeds will suit all families. Some dogs are very demanding, and some dogs are very aggressive, and some dogs need a lot of maintenance. They might shed a lot of hair. You might have allergies to it, or you plan to, or you have a carpeted house, or there are lots of things. So it's very important to educate the child with the kind of breed they want to choose. So, and the breeds are millions. And then if you want to adopt a dog, that is also not easy, I would say, because a dog which you want to adopt might have gone through a lot of stress. You don't know what the reasons are. You should really have the whole history of the of how it was treated. You should be really aware of all the triggers it might have, right? So it's also not easy. So the next thing what I did for my husband, who was not a dog person, was
something you have to say for me. So she says that she's already done extensive research. The teenage knows already about a lot.
Yeah. So doing the research and again practically having the dog are also very different things. She needs to dog sit someone's dog with the same breed, and really she needs to know what are the practical challenges then.
Okay.
So, and the practical challenges should not interfere with the harmony of the family again, right? So which is the priority. So yeah. So for us, we actually dog sat a dog for about 12 weeks, and then my husband was in love with having a pet. So then we went for a dog, and it was a very smooth transition then, because I am a dog person anyway. I had dog in my childhood. So yeah,
okay.
I hope this helps.
It may be slightly different, even my daughter, she's a single child, she's 14 years old. So she kept on demanding, not demanding, it's basically she kept on asking us for a dog. And we understood that, being a single child, she was feeling lonely.
Okay.
So initially, as Pavni said, we started with plants and then fish. So, but the thing is, she won't be consistent. After we get the dog, she will not be consistent. To take care of the dog. But the company definitely gets rid of the loneliness. So I feel somebody who raised the question. So I feel maybe the child may be lonely, but definitely having a pet would help them. And also my daughter, on and off, she takes, sometimes, when she says I'm bored, then I tell her, can you just take her for a walk? And then she'll take her for a walk. So I feel, but definitely, when they hit the teenage years, due to the studies, they will not be able to spend much of time with the dog. But she sleeps with the dog, all those kind of things. So there is some bonding, with the dog for her. But otherwise, they will definitely not take the responsibility. It will be on and off. But I feel, I am definitely going to give a contradictory answer to what she asked. Having a pet, I would definitely say it's going to have a lot of happiness in the house. Okay. Yes, it is an added responsibility, but we don't feel it that way. Initially, I was the one who was resisting no pet. But I am the one who's taking care of it now, so I don't feel it that way. I'm really, I have just accepted the dog as a part of a family.
Okay, you're saying that it do come with its own challenges, but definitely puts a really lot good in the house as well, and she's enjoying it. She's loving that experience.
I think everybody, be it my husband or myself, we all are extremely happy, being with the dog. Sometimes when we handle the teenagers, we become sad or something like that, or some emotional, but immediately the dog will change your emotion. Just, like playing or something.
I can share a very personal experience here also. I was never a pet person, neither cats nor dogs. So Sridhar just got one pet, and I fell in love instantly. That very day, I was like, I want one kitten also. So yeah, it changed me. I never thought I would ever be inclined, but yes, the cute that cat is. I was like, I want it very soon. So yes, but yes, definitely it comes with its own responsibilities, and if they do understand, if they give you a good answer, probably you can at least go ahead with the conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you all for sharing. I'm back again. So, by the way, what Rishabh just said, it's very true that yes, even I was in general loved animals, but I've never had a cat, not a dog. But then now that we have one, it's a very different experience. Like it's a real bond, and you cannot know it until you have it. And there is a cost to that too. I don't know if you can see it. A lot of marks. He scratches a lot, by the way. So there are multiple scratches throughout my body, but then you don't mind because he's still teething, and he's I think just entering his teenage phase, which is the difficult one. So we just have to find a way to deflect him. But yeah, overall, it's a very good experience. So, Madhu, I think what's happening here is you came here asking for an argument to convince her to not get one. And I think you got an argument why you should get one. So, yeah, that's what happens. Unexpected things happen. So, I'll give 3 to 4 points here. So, the first one is you should not, first of all, underestimate the bond that might happen, and then how much she'll actually take care of him, right? Him or her, Joby, the pet. So the idea is, yes, you may feel that the teenager might not be able to do it, then they have too many responsibilities. But it's also true that once you have a living being right in front of you, and who literally demands attention from you, who know that they can cry, they can bark, and they can lie down, they can do so many things. They are interacting with you. So your behavior naturally changes and you want to do things for them, and it starts to come naturally also. So you should not compare it with other responsibilities, that she can't keep a room well, how will she take care of a pet? She can't even take a shower on time, how will she take care of a pet? Those would be bad comparisons if you're thinking like that she can't even do her homework. So because a pet is a very different experience, a very different context. So that's the first thing, that she might actually be able to take care of it. And second is, I think with you and your husband, I know when you think about it, it sounds a very terrible thing, because there will be a lot of mess. Who knows what the animal will do? How will we ever entertain things? What if their pet damages stuff? And these are some common fears that people have. My parents have it too. But one thing we know is, repeatedly, I don't think I've ever come across a single example where it has been the other way around, that you loved them and now after you receive them, after you get them, now you hate them. It's always the other way, that you hated them and you don't like them, but once they're in your house, you start to love them. And it has happened so many times repeatedly, and I can quote so many personal examples where I've seen it happen. So what I'm asking you is, just like everybody else, you don't even know how you'll be once the pet is there. So it might actually be a great experience. So you and your husband could actually be open to it. So I must tell you that maybe you can give it a chance. And the third point is that sometimes a pet, or sometimes even a child, once you have a baby also, that of course happens at a later age, but once you have somebody that who you are responsible for, it actually makes you more responsible as a person. It can sometimes bring more discipline into your life, because earlier you could do just about anything, but once you have a child in your life, then sometimes you have to have a certain routine. You are supposed to take care of somebody else. You have to think about somebody else other than you. So it may actually instill some good values in your teenager as well. Okay, so that is also a possibility, that it actually leaves her a better person, because now she is responsible for this other creature, right? And next point would be about mental health. It's also true that it has a clear benefit on mental health also, right? I've literally had a client who felt that who told me repeatedly, if I did not have the dog with me, I would have committed suicide. Like, there are people like that who are literally living for their pets, because it becomes so important. And they say that whenever I'm lonely, whenever I'm down, this is the company that I have. So these are some powerful things that can happen. But I would still answer your question, which is, what if you still want to say no? So I'm saying that you don't need to say no, but if you still want to say no, what would that look like? So first of all, you have to make peace with the fact that your child will be consistently disappointed. And it's okay. Sometimes you cannot please your child with everything, and that's fine too. But the reality will be there. So that does not make you a bad parent, that you have disappointed your child in one area or one aspect. You have the right to still take that decision, because ultimately it's your comfort too. I'm not going to say that just because it can be done, it must be done, or anybody can do it, which is maybe your husband is too far from the idea that no matter how much you try, he'll still say no. So maybe it's just, and some people are very, very just strongly against it. So maybe he'll never be open. And in that case, your child will be disappointed, and that's actually fine. That's not that big of a deal, because nobody gets everything in their lives, right? We don't get anything. So even your daughter is not supposed to get everything that she demands. But on the other hand, you also must be able to then make peace with the fact that you won't get her happy face either. You can't get everything you want either. If you think that she will be happy with this decision and she'll just completely accept it, you probably won't get it, because in the end, it's not a bad decision. In the end, because she's looking at it in a neutral and cultural level, she knows, she has seen so many dogs on the Instagram, she has seen so many videos on YouTube, and she knows that it's something which is amazing, and I don't have it because my mom and dad don't like it. So it's like your preference versus her preferences. These are not good reasons. These are just a clash of personal preferences now, right? So in that sense, she will never exactly be happy with this fact that mom and dad, they have basically superseded their preference over mine. So her disappointment is also legitimate. And as parents, you have to make peace with that fact too, if you go ahead with that no. And like I said, it's fine too. Sometimes parents have to inevitably disappoint their children, but pick your areas carefully, right? is this worth or not? Is this really a big one or not? So pick your areas carefully where you should, where you probably have to disappoint your child. And maybe this area may not be the best one, because like I said, there are a lot of upsides to you and the family. So yeah, that was my full answer. Hope that made sense.
Yeah, Sridhar. Thank you so much for the answer. And I too love dogs. That's why it's so difficult for me to say no and talk to her.
Then you
about
should
it.
not. Actually, you know what? The easier thing is leave it to your husband. Okay, you know what? I'm out of this because it's not happening because of you. You deal with the child, you deal with the disappointment. I'm going to be on my daughter's side on this. Yeah, you don't have to necessarily take your husband's side on everything. So yeah, let him deal with it. So the burden is
Good
off
one.
your
Yeah,
shoulders.
Thank you.
All right. I think we can take one more question for today, and then we can wrap this up. But now, before that question, I have a couple of announcements. Let me make them. One is I have actually come up with a group therapy program. It's called Parent Anger Management. And here my some goals are, so for example, in any household, it can get very, very difficult sometimes to handle situations where there is a clear conflict, right? And sometimes there could be other things too. Sometimes children are making demands that you don't want to comply with, right? Or sometimes there's just a violation of some rule. It could be any situation, difficult situation. And it becomes more and more difficult when we can't regulate our emotions, okay? Because there is an actual issue and now everybody's angry. So even without anger, it was difficult to handle the issue, but with anger, it almost becomes impossible because now all of you are irrational, because when we are in the angry state, we can't think constructively, we can't talk constructively, we can't take the other person's point of view. So that's why I thought being able to handle your own emotions is a very crucial part of being rational and doing things constructively in the house. And that's why, I came up with the program called Parent Anger Management. Here, the goal would be that in all the difficult situations, you should learn to be able to stay calm first, regulate your own emotions, and second, be constructive also, because in anger, parents often end up saying very hurtful things which they regret later. But they keep saying it because, again, it's sometimes beyond their capability to regulate themselves, right? And that's why being able to be constructive is super important, because ultimately, if anybody remains too angry, they lose their temper too much, it not only affects your health, your mental health, but it also affects your child's health, their mental health, and of course the relationship, right? Because if there is too much consistent anger in the relationship, aggression there, then it can damage the relationship for the long run. So basically this course is going to be for 2 months, and there are going to be 8 sessions, and it's going to start 25th June. I'm going to share the link. Actually, all of the details are here. Actually, let me just share the detail right here, just the link for that. You can, and whoever needs to, whoever thinks that this is a problem in your household, please come, because I'm going to be discussing some principles in very detail, and it's going to be very application based. I'm going to make sure that whatever we learn is applied to some real life situations. So that's why I made it an elaborate one for 2 months, specifically around one topic. Just maybe save this link and think about this, talk with your partner. And if you join on one seat, a couple can join. Basically, both parents can come in on one seat. And it's recommended, actually, if you join this, both should come, because it could be helpful for everybody. And most of all, both of you would be on the same page as to what we are doing here, right? So this is why. Fee. So fee is for 2 months. It's inclusive of all tax. It's 4,000 plus tax, which comes down to 4,720. That's the fees for the whole course for 2 months. Okay. And yeah, if there are any other doubts, you can actually visit the page. You can talk to Rishabh later. The number is also, we have created a group specifically for the inquiries. You'll find that on the product, the link that I've shared here. Okay. So I just wanted to make that announcement. And another thing, just about our organization, as an organization, we are actually also moving into that direction. Right now, we do a lot of individual counseling, but we are moving into group therapy direction, because I've realized that I want to make it more and more accessible to people. And right now, I'm conducting this, and it's the first one. That's why I had to start with these rates. But my goal is, in future, as I make a bigger and bigger team, my dream is to make it available for a larger number of audiences and for at a lower and lower rate. That's what my dream with the organization is. So groups of people with similar problems can come together and get help and learn some very deep principles. So that's where we are going. Just wanted to share our direction. Okay, and I'll also share the other links which I do in each session, which is if you wish to donate and if you find these sessions, these Saturday sessions helpful, you can help us by donating something. And if you need counseling, there's a link for that too. That's for individual counseling. And sorry, I accidentally shared the homework link for the last meeting. So please ignore that link. Because for this session, there is actually no homework. This is the Q&A one. So that link is actually not useful here at all. I just shared it accidentally. All right. Now let's go to the last question. And after that, we'll close. So Vindhya has raised her hand. So I'm going to ask to unmute you. Yeah, Vindhya.
Yeah, hi, Sridhar.
Hi.
I have a question. It is a bit personal, but I'm okay asking it here. So I have a 10-year-old son, and I'm going through a divorce proceeding, and so he's the only child. Now the divorce, it is not. I mean. His father is not contesting the divorce, or he's okay with it, but it's been 6 years since I got separated. I was managing my kid on my own until last one and a half year. His father has come back and taken a place nearby where I stay, and he keeps visiting the child and all that, and I haven't restricted anything. I also know that the child needs to meet his father, and I don't have a right to stop him from meeting and all that. But now when it comes to custody, so his father is like, I will take care of the son. You give the custody to me. And I'm like, see, it took me many years to, get back to what I am and, taking care of my son and all that. And now I feel like, why has he come now? Everything was all right. Because, children get disturbed, between the parents. So, my family, they were like, let your son choose where he wants to stay, and let his father take him if he wants. Don't resist it. You also need to move on in your life and all that. So now my problem is, see, I have brought up my child in a certain way, and now he's 10 years old, screen time, this, that. And I've spoken to his father also. See, if you are going to raise the child, please keep these in mind that, I have told him some habits and all. So his father was like, yeah, definitely, I will take care of him. So my son stayed with him for, last 2-3 months. This is an informal arrangement. It's not a legal arrangement. My divorce proceedings are still going on. But now when my son has come back here, I see that, he's like, he wakes up 12 o'clock in the afternoon. He always wants, junk food and all that. See, I don't have a problem if his father takes care of him, but I'm really worried about all these habits which my son is developing, which I don't want him to. And at the same time, right now, I don't want him to take the custody of the child.
So two things would be, one is custody and another one is the bad habits that are coming because of his involvement, right? All right. So Thanks for the question. I'm going to leave it to Rishabh. And I think this one, yeah, I think we do have time. So people can answer freely. Yeah, all right.
Vindhya, you showed loads of courage here to ask something very personal. And I would like to applaud you for that, the same. And we can all learn to share like this. So yeah, who has some insight that Vindhya can use, some ideas, some wisdom, anything? You may have not gone through it, but you may have seen it in other families. Yeah, we have Krish here. Yeah.
As I heard the same situation with one of my cousins. Then what they did was they counseled the child. They counseled the child saying, this is good for you, this is because molding a child is easier than molding a father, I feel. And they did the same for him. They took him to some counselor, whom he is influenced by, like grannies, father side, mother side, anybody who is like, they know what is good and what is wrong. Continuously, they have the child has been spoken in that way that what is good and what is bad, and made him to choose the mother. It's not like a struggle for him to choose struggle between the parents, but he completely agreed to choose his mother. If mother is really willing him to stay back with her, they can do this one thing, I feel, because in one of my families, the same they did, and it worked out for them. He was around 14 years. Because of his father involvement, every day he started alcohol, everything he started, which made the mother so panic. And easily teenagers will get attracted to the bad habits rather than the good. So they took him to counseling and everything. This is their life. You yourself, and these all the things happens to you. You can brainwash him, or you can get counseled by somebody. And every day, if the child is every day given such thoughts, may join him for some courses like personality development and all. They automatically change by themselves. You can't force a child to be either with the father or either with the mother. He himself should understand, oh, my mother is good for me rather than my father. I can't ruin my life. This is the way they can start up, I guess. If it works out for them, it's well and good.
Okay. Anybody else? Sophia, you also have.
Yeah, Rishabh, hi.
Sophia, you have also some answer? Something that use?
Yeah, Rishabh.
Yeah, please do share.
Yeah. I have gone through this experience from my family. Like my Masi's son has gone through this. So I know a child gets really tough things to get to know how to manage with mother and father both. So we have to need the child's feelings also कि किसके साथ वो ज्यादा प्रेफर कर रहा है. But like उन्होंने कहा कि her son is like 10 years old. So वो अभी इतना समझदार तो है, ऑलमोस्ट 10 years के बच्चे सब समझते हैं, लेकिन उनको बताना पड़ेगा कि सही गलत क्या है, एंड विद पेशेंस उनको बताना पड़ेगा कि सही चीज क्या है, गलत चीज क्या है, और उसके लिए उन्हें बहुत एफर्ट डालना पड़ेगा. क्योंकि जो चीजें अभी ये बता रहे हैं, जो उन्होंने 2-3 मंथ में जो चेंजेस देखे हैं ऋषभ, वो भी टाइम पे लाने के लिए उनको बहुत एफर्ट लगेगा. और इफ शी इज कैपेबल इनफ टू टेक केयर ऑफ द चाइल्ड, लाइक शी टोल्ड के वो अभी 6 years से उनकी चाइल्ड की केयर ले ही रहे हैं अपने आप, तो उनको इजी रहेगा कि वो बच्ची को क्या समझाना है, क्या करना है, क्योंकि बच्चा भी अटैच है. तो उनको थोड़ा और एफर्ट डालना पड़ेगा उसको सही गलत समझाने के लिए. और थोड़ा सा काउंसलिंग की भी हेल्प लेके अगर वो इस वे में जाते हैं तो वो बहुत अच्छे से बेटर तरीके से अपने बेटे को समझा सकते हैं कि उन्हें कौन सी साइड लेनी है, फादर की या मदर की. या ऋषभ.
Okay.
Thank you both for sharing. And I actually both of you addressed a point of the child's will and the child's mind, right? Like, and that's actually a good point. Although, I mean, the counselor, it's usually a parent's argument, right? Like both parents have to kind of give the child the argument that how you will be better off here, and it's probably the worst conversation you have to have with your child, that you have to convince that how I am better than your father, and the father might have to say, but that's the reality, because ultimately something has to happen. The child cannot stay with both; he has to stay with one. And of course, we can manage the visiting thing, but still, where he lives permanently, the core home, that actually does matter. So yes, these conversations will be an inevitable part of the whole proceedings, and you will have to make them, and you will have to talk to the child a lot. So there is definitely value in those points. I'm going to address 3 points here. So the first is, see, I'm talking about it from a very fairness perspective, not exactly what we can do. From a fairness perspective, what do we pursue, right? So it seems that, see, technically we know that both mother and father, they should have equal 50-50 rights on the child's custody. But in this case, like you said, for past 6 years, since you've been separated, you have been the core caretaker, you've done everything. So just because of the fact that you have put in more effort and you were there more for the child, it seems that simply from the angle of fairness, you deserve to have the custody. So I'm bringing the angle of that you deserve to do it, and that's why you should pursue it and not feel guilty about it, whether you pursue it legally or whether you pursue it by explaining it to the child why you should be there. So it's just that do you deserve something or not? You put in the effort, you deserve it. So I wanted to just point that out for the custody part. Now I'll talk about the habits part. 2 points there. The one is that there are lots of pros and cons of your child visiting visiting the father, right, in this scenario. And what you've just mentioned was the con part. Okay, you know what, he's picking up bad habits, or just because of maybe sometimes kids even take advantage, right, that they know that they can pitch one parent against the other. So they do that, and that's also normal behavior, because they are basically looking for their own desires to be fulfilled, and whatever way they can find, they do it. But in this sense, you have to look at your partner now, or his presence in your child's life, in the full picture, which is, what is the alternative? Alternative could be, what if, let's say, we completely cut it off and the child has no father? Does that look like good, like a good scenario, that your child may have good habits but no father? Not exactly, because fatherless children, they can go on to have many different kinds of problems. So a presence of a father is very important for a child's development, their psychology, and in the long run, how secure they feel about themselves. Because if the father is, let's say, not present, then it can leave some long-term marks on their psychology. So this is why his presence has a lot of benefits, but those benefits come with some cost, which is what you're experiencing. And all of that, the pros and cons, the whole package is completely out of your hands. You have no way to influence your partner or teach him new parenting skills. He will do whatever he'll do, and your child will do whatever, and child will make the most of it in his own way. So it's better that you first accept those pros and cons together, not just one part of it. And okay, this is the reality, and this is basically out of your hands what your husband does, right? Now the final part, focus on what's in your hands. So what is in your hands, which is basically the points that Adar was also saying, and otherwise the parenting advice too, which is, you make your parenting influence strong, you continue to talk to the child, you reason with the child a lot, you give him ample time, so that ultimately your influence matters more than your husband's influence. So his influence will not be zero, but yours can be overpowered if you if you talk to him reasonably, communicate a lot, build a strong bond, right? The child will come back to you and ultimately want your approval and things. And in some cases, he won't, but again, it's out of your hands. Your part is that communicate more and more, reason more and more with the child. And like I discussed earlier in the session today, that you can just be that good force. You cannot hope that it will happen to your satisfaction. It will never. But if you do your part well, your child will be fine. So that's how you can look at it. Okay. Yeah, hope that made sense. So yeah, with that, I think we can close today's session. And thank you all again for coming. Please, in the next meeting, come back and bring one more person with you. Hopefully you will. Let's see. And have a great weekend. It was great talking to you. And I think I also enjoyed this new way of conducting it. I hope you guys did too, because we did get new interesting points from this discussion when people said things. So yeah. All right. Thank you all for coming. I'll take a leave now. I'll leave the meeting on for a few minutes in case, and I'll share the links again in case somebody wants them. Also, okay, so one more thing, if not everybody has left, just one more announcement that for this Thursday, we are skipping the meeting because I'm actually coming up with a new model of community building, which is I'm not going to make it dependent on that form filling. In fact, what we are coming up with is a nominal contribution like thing, something like we're thinking 200 per month, right? And basically it will be a community of people who really want to work on things together with other people. And we also want to make that meeting completely confidential, because I've observed that there people want to share more and they want to really talk about those things, and they don't want them to be public. And that's why we're just keeping that normal contribution, so that those meetings will also be completely confidential, and ultimately we can use the funds to grow the community bigger. And so there are a lot of new features. I'll actually be announcing it properly in the next session, and then the meetings will start again from that next week. So for this Thursday, there will be no meeting. It will start with the new structure from the next one. So I just wanted to put that out there. These videos can help you to some degree, but if your problems are really serious or painful, you should come for counseling. We now have a team of psychologists who can help you and your family live a much better life. Here are some feedbacks from our clients. If you wish to take counseling from us, go to our website page www.sridharlifeschool.com/counsel. Click on this link and fill this application form. We will get back to you soon.